Thank you for joining us for Community Quotes. Jacob, if you could tell us your name and spell it out for us.
Jacob White, Jacobwhite.
Wonderful. And I know that you work here at AOC. You're one of my coworkers. So tell me a little bit about what you do, what your official job title is, and your experience and how long you've been working here.
I have been working here since February of 2009, actually. This is my 9th year at AOC. And to be completely honest, I don't know what my job title is. I think on my business card it says production assistant, which is most accurate. But I am sort of the main guy who comes in and kind of tags out the day crew and just handles more of the live shows, which occur in the evenings, and hang out until 10 or so. And so then I'm also here for people who want to use the facilities for any number of things, right, as anyone who's familiar with AOC knows.
Yeah, yeah. And you've been here for so many years. I'm sure that in that time frame you've had some favorite memories. What would you say to date is your favorite memory, or something that really stands out to you that you can say, you know, when you think back on AOC, what comes to mind?
Wow, that's a great question. I probably some of my favorite memories, although we are now in this great new building and have been since like 2011, are from the old building, just because it was a little more chaotic and organic, and we would have events in what was called the ACFM side, which I think was Acadiana Center for Film and Media, which maybe took place when that building kind of, it used to be like a part of it was AOC, and I think AOC was finally able to just subsume the entire thing before it went. Now it's a sunken vessel over there waiting to be whatever, brought up from the sea. But to take that metaphor way too far, we had these events in the big room in there, and sometimes they would be poetry readings or open mics, or bands would come, and we'd have sort of mini festivals, as well as when they would have festivals in town, like Festival and what was the film festival that they had back then? I think it was different than the ones that they have in town now. Maybe it was Cinema on the Bayou. But they would, folks would use it to show, screen short films, and it was just so multi-use in a way that this place can't quite be, just because of how buttoned up it is. Right. Well, I don't think Southern Screen was even going yet, right? Because that's only like, maybe that was. Is Southern Screen in like its 8th year? It is, huh? But yeah, no, I think you might be right. It might be Southern Screen. And this might be too disjointed to use, but it was just, I don't know, it was just a really cool place. And the spirit has moved here, but it's just, this place just doesn't have the facade for it. You have to come into an atrium and then come into AOC and then come into the room where that can happen. And there, you just walked right into that room. It was this big open area, and yeah. So any one of those memories would suffice.
Awesome. In looking at where we were at AOC, back in the old building to where we are now, what impresses you the most?
Wow. Well, I think just the level of effectiveness at what was the goal of AOC, which is to get people involved in the community and get them to produce their own media. I think we're in a really impressive place, just by the tendrils AOC has been able to put out in the primary education and that sort of the public ed of Lafayette, as well as UL, these increasing ties, and UL students and faculty using AOC more. I just think that the amount that the equipment is out of the cage, right, is crazy now. I mean, it's always, people have,
When you first started working at AOC, did you know how to use the equipment already, or were you very green to it?
I was pretty green to all of it, yeah. Okay. I had done front desk stuff. Yeah. I had, been that person. And
so over the years you've learned.
Yes, yeah. And so almost all my AV stuff, which any of the production guy, the real production guys at AOC will tell you, it was all learned here, and probably wrongly in some ways.
I
but
was about to say, when you have to learn on the job with such technical equipment,
yes.
Have you ever made a mistake?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Tell us about your
Myriad and
biggest
too many
mistake.
to number. I mean, the biggest mistake I used to make was just leaving we had the production cage downstairs that had, all the mics and just lots of like good and expensive gear that was used for live shows. And there was a key to it, and I would take the key home, or I would just leave it unlocked, or the key would be missing. Right. That was my most tenuous time at AOC, when it all depended on can we still use the equipment, Jacob, or did you go home with the key and you have to turn back up?
Yeah, you had a lot of splaining to do.
I had a lot of splaining to do, yeah. And so that too has been ironed out.
Awesome, awesome. I know that you have a show off the wall with Paul Bruyette. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
No, actually, I don't
and
think.
And the inception. I know you want to talk about it.
I want to talk about that. That is one of the funnest things that we use. Me and my buddies use AOC for, consistently at least, because we sometimes are working on other projects. But
how did you come up with the concept?
Well, it was just me and Paul, would meet up. I would see him around. And we'd say we got to do a show. And at the old building, I would very sporadically do shows. Like we had one called the Worthless Earthers that we probably did 2 of. We had one called what was the name of it? It was a play on oh wow, I'll think of it later. But we would shoot in the multi-room the studio over there. But it never became anything, and it wasn't really, in my mind, what, I don't know, we wanted to do some kind of variety show. And so one day we bumped into each other on a Sunday afternoon, and it was recently, we moved into this building on September of 2011? And it was like the January of next year. We were riding bikes, bumped into each other on a Sunday, said, let's go over to the studio, did our first show, and then we've pretty much been.
What is the format of your show?
It's Paul and myself behind a table, and we have microphones. And
random topics.
More and more, Paul has a list prepared, and I usually have a blank piece of paper that if I have a chance, I'll write some stuff on. Okay. Maybe during the show if I haven't yet got anything on there yet. And then ideally we have bands, but we haven't had a band on since the new year. Mm-hmm. We've done like 3 or 4 shows, so we're going to get some content to you folks as soon as possible. But yeah, in the meantime, we just fill time.
Well, and now's the time to do your plug. When is it, and how can people watch?
Check out Jacob and Paul on AOC Community Media, Channel 2. That's the second channel. And we're on at 5 p.m. on Sundays. And you can also watch us on my Facebook page, which is inadvisedly public. As I found out after one show when someone had posted some graphic links right to my page, and I don't check my Facebook, so you can definitely slip one past for a while, and hopefully someone will text me and say, hey, that's not where I wanted this to go, actually. Watch the show, which is on that thread, and you can scroll back and watch like a ton of them. We've been doing that now for like 1.5 years on Facebook, so there's a bunch of
that's great.
Old shows. You could watch a lot of content of me and Paul doing what I'm doing right now.
Do we have it on our YouTube channel?
Some of them, I don't know how consistently they go up because the workflow that we do, we aren't recording it as much as we should, and so some of them would be on AOC's YouTube, but not all of them.
Okay, I'll check it out. Well, let's forget about AOC for a few minutes and let's talk about who Jacob is. Tell me where you grew up, what your family life was like, and all that experience.
Okay, all right. In as few words as possible. I grew up, I sprouted in Missouri, outside of Kansas City, Missouri, in Belton. Okay. And lived there until about 8. And in that time, my sister was born a few years after me, and then my parents' relationship around that time became rocky. And my dad moved down to Louisiana, where he was from. He was born, I think, near Lafayette, and he moved to Lake Charles. And so he got into a relationship with another woman who I ended up, me and my sister, became very close with. My mom took this like radical step to, she actually left in the middle of a school year. She's a school teacher, and she decided to come down and so that we would be close to my father, and perhaps, in some way seeking to rekindle their relationship. But what ended up happening is she put roots down, and we just, I don't know, I mean, if I had not grown up where I did, and where I ended up having to escape because it was, I had outgrown it and I didn't know what to do there. I don't know, I would not be who I am. I don't think I would like myself, but I often am reminded that I wouldn't like myself really at many of the times in my own timeline. I would, and they probably wouldn't like me, And it's just like, I find
that hard to believe.
No, well, I don't know. I mean, we could make nice.
Yeah.
But I have a lot to say to that guy, that I was and am still becoming, because as I get older, I continue to realize, like, to take things more slowly, to pay more attention to what's around me, and when I do that, it's like the whole world changes, and then I realize, like, well, wow, that would have been a nice power to have 10 years ago or 2 years ago. But
so where did you grow up in this area, in Lafayette itself?
Well, actually, I grew up in Lake Charles and didn't move here
okay.
until 2008.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Lake Charles around, it was called Village Green Apartments. And it was this weird, nice apartment complex right near the project, right near the mall, also on this dividing line of school districts, so that I went to LaGrange, but I was actually it was carved out to be in the Barb district, which was the nice, it was the rich people school. And I went to the less affluent school, but not the poorest school. It was kind of the middle high school, and it was just the best. I mean, it was just the funnest time I ever could have had.
Did you consider yourself to be more scholastic than athletic?
My peers would have, yes. I was I played soccer, and I went out for track in middle school, but didn't make it. I got like a good time on the mile, like 6:16, but it wasn't fast enough. And then I picked up cigarettes in high school and just smoked so many cigarettes. I have asthma today, adult onset asthma.
Should not smoke.
Well, I think also that's maybe why you should wear a respirator if you live in Lake Charles, Louisiana, or Westlake, or Mossville especially. But or just get onto all the class actions when that train comes in and gets you a couple of $100. But I was I loved playing soccer. I was a soccer player in high school, but I was just never I don't know. I always thought of myself as like really great at it.
Yeah.
I don't think I was, looking back.
You were a legend in your own mind.
Yes. Yeah. But we had fun on that soccer team, even though we weren't very good at winning games.
Gotcha.
Then that's consistent throughout soccer my whole life. My dad was my coach in soccer when I was younger, and there was one time where we had found a box turtle on the side of the field, and we were so far behind. We were like 8 goals behind. It was like 8-0 or 8-1. And we were playing against like the best team in this little tiny league. But we decided we're going to put this box turtle on the field when there's a break, when there's like a throw or something, and that will distract the other team and we'll sneak a goal in. But this...
Something tells me that didn't go well.
Yeah, the plan itself distracted our team, and they scored like a 9th goal. And
I thought you were going to say he got trampled on.
No.
It wasn't anything.
Yes, there's none of that in my. Well, there's a little bit of that in my past, but for the most part, I stood up for animals. Because there's a lot of, especially in Louisiana. Maybe it's just everywhere in Podunkville, but there's just so much disrespect for nature and wildlife more in Lake Charles. I find there to be more respect in Lafayette, or maybe that's just my experience here. more
There
awareness
are a lot
at
of
least.
shelters and
rescues
in Lafayette. I don't know
But
if there's
just,
many in Lake Charles.
I don't know, there seems to be a culture of disrespect for nature in that area. Or again, that may just be, one's relationship with one's hometown, because that's what I see Lake Charles as.
So you grew up and you graduated from high school there, and then moved on to Lafayette?
Yeah, graduated, well, and there was an interim, but yeah, I graduated from LaGrange in 2001, and I started, I worked all kinds of jobs. I had, my first job was in Belton before I moved, so I was like 8 or 9, and I would go twice a week to my uncle's shop. He has a sporting goods store to this day, Mars Southland Sports in Belton, and I would sweep, and that's where I learned to mop, and and I would clean up over there and make whatever. And then I got a job when I was 12 in Lake Charles, working at Beck's Pets for a while. I had that job, and I actually was in this children's choir, this like national children's choir called OAKE, Organization for American Kodai Educators. It's like the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that system of teaching music to children. I would be in this thing, and I would like earn money to go to this thing and working at a pet store. But when I got out of high school, I was thinking about going to college, and I did go to McNeese for a semester, but I screwed off and didn't finish it. Probably still owe them like $7. I can't remember how that plan worked, but I probably still owe them a few $100. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I'd be curious what how that works. I don't know. I tried to get my credit report like a year ago, and I don't exist to Experian and all that. We should edit out, because then somebody could maybe figure out how to use my name. Yeah, but it's ridiculous. So, but we can leave it in. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Okay, so then I started working. I don't know. I worked at a shoe store. Where did I carpet cleaned for a long time, and that was the job I was doing when I decided to. That's what it was. It was one of the years that we had a big hurricane, and there was a ton of water damage, and this was in like late in the season, like October, and there was so much work, it was conflicting with class schedule, and I was like, man, I'm gonna make more money than I need to. I'll get out of school, I'll maybe go back when I feel like it. Never went back.
Yeah.
But I'm glad for that. So
how did you get involved with AOC?
That was okay. So in 2008, the election cycle is heating up early in the year, and I've always been a political junkie, and have become less and less vocative as I've gotten older, better able to not speak, because that's the best thing to do, because then everybody else just makes themselves look stupid. They don't realize it, because they're me from the past, and they think that they are proving their point and sounding smart. But I was super interested in especially the affairs of government and all the nonsense that had been going on, for, well, whatever, since the beginning of time. And so I ended up, there were some friends of mine getting into the Democratic Party's, like, some third-party entity that was a ground force, some kind of community organizing thing. I can't remember what the name of it was, but I got hired on to work for Mary Lander's re-election campaign in 2008, which was successful. The one that I didn't work for in 2014, she lost. So see, they should have offered me more money. Yeah. But I claim 100% responsibility for that win. No, sorry. So I worked for them. That was really cool. I made a lot of friends, and I ended up moving to Lafayette. Went to New Orleans for a little while to train and learn, how to run this system called Vote Builder, which is basically a database of voters. And it was really cool, but it was also like so jarring and revelatory. Like by the end of it, I was so proud and happy when Obama won, and I was living in these apartments in Lafayette, and these black guys are coming around like that night at like midnight in a car, like going slow, honking the horn. Like, what are these guys doing? And as I'm going in, and they just are going by, Obama! They had voted for one thing, which was nice to know in itself. but they were just so excited and you know, hopeful. And the next, you know, really the intervening next couple months for me and for everyone else, you know, the next, well, no, never mind, because nobody noticed anything. But it was sad for me to see, you know, the continuation and expansion of foreign wars, wasteful wars, and, you know, during the bailout to see, you know, banks rather than homeowners be given that gift. And so, you know, I was kind of jaded at that point, didn't want to go back into politics. I worked on a campaign in 2010 for Patricia Cravens, running for a seat that was won by Elbert Guillory, who's this ne'er-do-well, who's currently a Louisiana senator. He was running for, excuse me, a House seat, a Louisiana House Representative seat. And you know, he just, through disinformation and a lack of curiosity by the press, they left. You know, there were scandals that could have, you know, been brought up that weren't, and the guy, you know, sailed to victory. And that was when I was just like, you know what, whatever. I'll just be a voyeur.
And that sounds like typical Louisiana politics.
Yeah, yeah, true. Especially Louisiana, but politics as usual, unfortunately, in much of the U.S. and the developing world. You know. Yeah. I don't know, probably the developed world too, but the U.S. is, we don't need it. Obviously, this doesn't need to enter the record here, but it's just, I don't know, I'm perpetually dismayed at the state of politics in the U.S., and my girlfriend has been telling me I need to clean up my act and run for something.
Would you consider that?
Yeah, maybe in the future, you know, maybe in the near future. I just need to, I don't know, I would need to like start waking up earlier and get my life more ordered, because I use working at AOC late as an excuse to continue. You know, my whole life, I've loved to just sleep in, get up late, stay up late, and usually I've gotten a job that corresponds to that. And so I could
start off with like council member or something like that.
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I would want to start out the school board, but then I would probably make enemies and never get another. Yeah. I would have to start out running for school board and lose. That's what I would do. I would run for a seat that I couldn't win, and just to get my name on Google. Yeah. So I'm admitting it now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change the subject on you.
Okay.
Enough politics. If you could spend one day in someone else's shoes, who would it be and why?
Wow, that's a good question. Oh, wow, probably one of the countless, like, unnamed refugees, you know, maybe from Syria, or maybe even one of the people that are staying in Syria, like northern Syria, where they, you know, like Kurdistan, as they call it, where, you know, you have just people, like, basically living in a power vacuum and living out their lives, you know, just
see what that experience is like.
Yeah, just so that I'd be reminded of it in my comfortable
I think it would
Western
be a humbling
life.
Experience.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. What type of music do you like to listen to? Who are some of your favorite bands?
I mean, favorite bands, it's like Zeppelin, Beatles, Queen, you know. But then I love like what is that? What are their crazy names? The Elephant Six. What's the main guy? Oh, I can't even think of their dang names. We got to edit that out.
Well, then you're a huge fan.
Of Montreal. Well, they have so many little bands. Like every single one of them. It's kind of like Lafayette, but with these guys from, I don't know where, I think like Athens, Georgia, and Canada. And anyway, so yeah, of Montreal. Wait, hold. Of Montreal. I'm sorry.
Okay.
None of this is usable.
All usable. What about television shows other than your own program? What are some of the favorite shows that you like to watch?
I loved Breaking Bad. That was one of the best. I love Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I loved Seinfeld. I don't know. I love to laugh. Yeah. And then I love to cry too. Oh my God, we watched Big Little Lies recently. That was really good. But I could go on and on. I watched too much TV.
So you could watch chick flicks too?
Oh, well, I can. I don't choose to. I didn't see that as a chick flick. Yeah. Although I'll admit that I did see it as a chick flick initially and didn't approach it. So I have a prejudice there because when we watched it, my God, it was so impressive. I think it won some awards and deservedly so. But okay, we recently watched My Love from Another Star. It's this Korean drama, and it's these like super famous Korean actors who all embody, I've now learned, their characters. One of them is like this Batman kid who he's just super nice. He doesn't actually do any fighting, but he's really rich. His dad's rich, and so he's always helping people. And then this other guy is from another star, and he landed here 400 years ago, and he's all young and good looking, but he's actually super old, and he's seen these people throughout his life, he's had loss after loss after loss, and he's decided not to get involved with humans and not to try to help them because he makes it worse. And because just by being near them, he suffers through this sense of, constantly losing those that he loves. And then there's this actress, Chung Sung-ye. She's like this, cute but ditzy, the top actress in Korea, and it's just so good. There's mystery. There's crime. His brother, the Batman kid's brother, is this bad guy who uses his wealth to like off his rivals and even his loved ones. He doesn't have loved ones. He's a psychopath. But it is just the fashion is incredible. It's funny. Like makes me want to learn Korean. I was learning to sound it out because it's actually a really simple invented language, invented script rather, and way easier to read than you would think. But I mean, I don't know like the words. I know bol, which is what, and where, which is why, and that's about it.
Right. Do you know any languages other than English?
No. I can read a good bit of Latin, and so I can kind of like. And in fact, I bought a bunch of French magic cards because I took French throughout school, and I can pretty much hack through reading it, but I wouldn't want to like read it aloud to anybody because I sound terrible, and I could maybe survive if put in a French-speaking country.
All right, I'm going to change gears on you. If tomorrow you won the lottery, what would you do with the money?
How many times I have spun this on question. First thing I would do is form a blind trust, and I would delegate at least 40% of the money to go to forming a nonprofit that would provide microloans, low interest microloans in communities of need. And I would, stock that nonprofit with, people who I think are deserving, and so I would provide a few good jobs, and then obviously also some lower paying jobs at the end of the. I don't know. Maybe I could pay them.
Sure.
We'd pay everybody well.
Great. And the 60%, what would you do?
Oh man, the rest of it, I don't know. Try not to blow it. Hopefully build some kind of.
Would you travel the world?
Yeah, I'd like to travel, but that's a given. The only reason that I don't travel is just because it's expensive. Because that would be really fun. And I mean, I'm sure some people are watching and saying, "Oh, no, it's not expensive." There are ways you get a good deal on a flight and you find places to backpack.
You wouldn't have to worry about it. You'd own your own private jet, right?
I would not own. No, I would rent. I would use it as needed because the upkeep is ridiculous. Unless I was going to start some kind of small business and hire a pilot or two to use it when I'm not using it. But I would probably build some kind of sweet compound and maybe like a cool like seed bank and a bunker and all that cool stuff. And, apocalypse prep because that's always fun. And then I would maybe get some kind of yacht or barge or something like Highlander travels the world with the barge. But I'm wary of travel at sea because I had this premonition when I was younger that I was going to die at sea. Oh. And having asthma. Yeah, well, it's probably more the asthma thing. I think it's because of metaphorically like drowning when I have an asthma attack. Yeah. don't know. Oh, I'm touching my mic.
Yeah, don't do that. All right. If you could have dinner with 5 people, living or deceased, famous, not famous.
You should have emailed me this before, and I could have made myself seem smarter.
Who would it be?
Let's see. Okay, I would probably choose Brunelleschi and Bruno. Brunelleschi, the architect, Bruno, the astronomer, and just all around like flouter of the current norms in Renaissance Europe or medieval to Renaissance Europe. What year was that? Like the 1600s. I would probably have Shakespeare just to see the dude, and then. I mean, Einstein, duh. That's 4. And then I would have to get that chick, Catherine de Bovary, who was this wild, I think that's her name. I'm going to have to, it's Catherine de Bovary. And she was this like fencer and scholar in the early 1800s in France. She would maybe even earlier. And she would go around like getting into, okay, they would have bare-breasted matches because she would prove that she's a woman because people would think it was just a guy, and she would go around beating people.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was also she just did all kinds of fun stuff. That's a good Wikipedia hole to get into.
I think that would be a very interesting dinner party.
Right,
Yeah.
and we would all be hitting on her.
Yeah.
And then I would invite my girlfriend so that I wouldn't get in trouble. She'd be there anyway, right? She's allowed to have the meal. Okay, cool.
Do you have any fears or phobias?
Phobias, I don't think so. I used to like heights, and now I get kind of I clutch. So maybe that's a bit of a phobia. Mm-hmm. When I get like high up some places, I'm kind of, I guess just looking down, it's just scary. And I would still jump off of stuff if I like bungee or skydive. Let's see, phobias or fears. I'm probably just afraid of not really accomplishing the things that I see myself as being able to accomplish. That's my biggest like regular old fear, is that
What do you want to accomplish? What is out there that you haven't accomplished yet that you'd like to?
I would like to accomplish shooting 1 episode of Petty Crimes, which is my idea for a sitcom, and that's it. Just one, if I do 1 episode, because I feel like it'll be a Jacob and Paul thing, and it will cascade. And if I get 1, I'll do more. I did a show last summer here called Midpoint, which was a discussion show which I'd been wanting to do a series of for a while. And I did 1. It was fun. We had a really good discussion, and it took me a month or more before I'd actually then taken it and edited it together and got it to AOC to play. And I have not done another one since. And it still feels like something I would like to do, but it's definitely not something I want to also spearhead and organize and have to do all the other and edit. And so that's something maybe in the future I would do. But Petty Crimes, I feel like comedy is a place where I would really, if I just did some shooting, I would feel it would be more fun to edit. And I already have a few ideas for episodes, and I feel like if we did 1, I would really, the floodgates would open. So that's something I just need to, note to future self.
Mm-hmm. To date, what is your proudest achievement?
Wow, my proudest achievement. Oh, that's tough. Tough not because of the wealth of choices, but what is my proudest achievement? I mean, my mind immediately went to video games. I mean, my proudest achievement is just moving out of home and not having to ask my parents for money. I know, my proudest achievement is when my deadbeat dad asks me for money and I can send it to him. You can leave that.
Okay. Who would you say is the most influential person in your life, and why?
The most influential person in my life would be my dad, too.
Okay.
And then my mom. My dad, for a lot of great reasons, because he's just like so smart, and he got me so curious and so rebellious, like nakedly, immediately, reactively rebellious to the things I hear, and I've kept that with me, and I've gotten better at knowing when to use it and when to let that pass. And then my mom, just because, I mean, she just took this Herculean task upon herself of coming down to a place she'd been once or twice, and just moving here and moving us, and she had retirement growing there, and she just got it out, took what she could, came down here, and now almost has enough to retire again, just a little bit later than she would have before. But she just, man, I mean, the older I get, the more I appreciate my mom. And it's funny because it reminds me of the Mark Twain quote about his dad, about, when I was 18, the man was an imbecile. And by 24, I was amazed at how much the old man had learned in such a short time. And my mom, just like the older I get, the more I realize how wise she is and how much I resemble her. But anyway, let's not move me to tears.
Okay. We're going to wrap up. If you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would those words be?
Nearly succinct enough.
Jacob, is there anything else about you that we haven't covered that you would like to talk about for our viewers to know about you?
That's a great question. I don't think so. I just, mainly my whole gestalt is that I try to be as nice as I can bear, unless it will lead on sharks. Because you have people in the world that are predators. And so I just want to be like accommodating and nice when I can, and when I see, that other sort of person to immediately know, and to, try to behave in a way that not only won't lead them on, but will protect loved ones, because that's the real fear, is not being able to protect your loved ones.
That's right. Well, that's great advice. Well, Jacob, that's it. That concludes our interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being here. Appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.